We start with an Amber Alert for a 14-year-old girl from right here in New Mexico is still in effect this morning.
Police are looking for 14-year-old Lacey Duent. She is 5'4" with brown hair and hazel eyes. APD says the teen met a man, 26-year-old Robert Butler, online and that she may have left with him on Monday. They could be driving in a blue Subaru Crosstrek like this and may be heading to Florida. Contact police if you spot them. The proposed budget unveiled by Mayor R.J. Berry includes pay raises for Albuquerque police officers, new police cars, and $1 million to train officers to better deal with mentally ill people.
But a pair of high-powered attorneys in Duke City say it is too late for that. They're working on a sweeping class action lawsuit against APD dealing with the shootings of people who are mentally ill. They say the shooting more than 2 weeks ago of James Boyd in the foothills was the last straw. News 13 Samantha McDonald has the details from the Newsplex. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, Matt. Well, most of the 34 people Albuquerque police officers have shot since 2010 have been mentally ill. The lawyers behind this suit say they want parents of mentally ill adults to know their sons and daughters won't be in danger if confronted by police. Attorney Joe Kennedy is calling for more training to help officers talk mentally ill people down during an arrest or a standoff. He's talking with parents of adults with mental health needs interested in joining a class action lawsuit against Albuquerque police. He says although the mayor is calling for funding for new APD training, he doesn't want to wait and see if the city gets it. He wants a judge to order it.
We don't want this to happen anymore, and we think there are better ways, and the idea is to require many more officers to receive critical incident training.
Kennedy says he's expecting to file suit by the end of the month. And unlike the other costly lawsuits APD's been hit with, he says this won't be about a payout. Matt, back to you.
Well, Mr. Kennedy did not say or not want to say how many families might be involved in the class action lawsuit. The mayor's office didn't want to comment either because no one there had seen the lawsuit yet. Elizabeth.
The feds are expected to release their long-awaited investigation into how the Albuquerque Police Department operates. If similar investigations around the country are any indication, APD could be in for some painful and expensive changes. Last night on special assignment, we took a look at the police departments in Seattle and New Orleans who faced mandatory reforms after the DOJ slammed them for widespread police problems from the use of excessive force to the lack of accountability. Citizens in Seattle have been on the hook for $7 million and counting. In New Orleans, city officials estimate more than $10 million a year for the next 5 years.
These reforms are expensive. It's really a lot of unfinished business in terms of doing things that should have been done a long time ago. Think of the police department as a house that's been neglected for 30 years.
To see what APD and the city could be in for, log on to KRQE.com or tune in tonight on 2 Casa Fox at 9 for the very latest on protests and the DOJ fallout on the APD shootings. Keep it right here on KRQE News 13 and on KRQE.com.
Well, in the middle of all the controversy with the Albuquerque police shootings, yesterday a U.S. deputy marshal shot a man in Albuquerque's South Valley. And while the Marshal Service is not talking about what happened, here's what we've learned from the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department. About 9:30 yesterday morning, shots were fired. It happened as marshals were trying to arrest a felon, Gilberto Serrano. They say he tried to drive off in a pickup near Sunset and Bridge Southwest. Serrano here is a parole violator wanted for child abuse and firearms crimes. He was taken to UNM Hospital where he was treated and released to the infirmary. He's being held without bond this morning. The deputy marshal was hurt and should be okay. Well, City of Albuquerque plans on holding more meetings for the new Child Abuse Prevention Task Force. This after the first one last night. The task force was created after 9-year-old Omari Varela here died. His mom, Cynthia Varela Casals, right here, is charged with kicking him to death in late December. His death came despite several reports to APD and the state's Children, Youth and Families Department that Omari was being abused. Last night, task force leaders say the focus needs to be on prevention and training for first responders and CYFD investigators.
These families need follow-up. They need to stay involved in the system. You can't just treat the child and then send them home, or treat the child, send them to foster care. You have to look at the treatment as treatment for the entire family.
Once the city announces when the other public outreach sessions will be, we'll pass that information along to you.
More than a dozen New Mexico families are suing the state, saying their children deserve a better education. MALDEF, the Mexican-American Legal Defense and Education Fund, filed the lawsuit yesterday. On their behalf, it said New Mexico fails to prepare students to succeed, especially at-risk and English language learning students. 14 families from across the state are actually suing.
I want my kids to graduate high school and be ready to take on college courses and not have to have a minimum paying wage job where they have to live paycheck to paycheck.
A spokesman at the Public Education Department says they cannot comment on the case, but pointed out recent academic improvements among minority students, as well as an increase in education funding.
Well, according to his attorney, an ex-APD officer fired after being caught on video repeatedly kicking a suspect was a sacrificial lamb and deserves to be reinstated with back pay and full seniority. Former officer John Doyle's firing was appealed in state district court last year. According to the Albuquerque Journal, earlier this month, Doyle's attorney, Shannon Kennedy, made a supplemental filing which claims two officers who testified against Doyle at a personnel board hearing in 2012 contradicted their sworn testimony in another hearing a year later. Kennedy now says Doyle was made into a sacrificial lamb by then Chief Ray Schultz, who's trying to stave off the Federal Department of Justice investigation. Well, the U.S. Department of Energy postponed plans to get a crew underground to begin investigating a radiation leak at WIPP. The crews were supposed to head underground yesterday for the first time since February's radiation leak, all to investigate what happened there. But the real-time radiation monitors crews were supposed to wear didn't get there. The spokesman says a crew of 8 will enter the plant sometime later this week. On Monday, we learned 4 more workers tested positive for radiation exposure, making it 21 workers and all.